Center. Now, South Africa is being sold as the place to be for the next 3 days. And let me welcome somebody from Brand South Africa. She is the CEO, Sithembile Ntombela. Sithembile, thank you so much for joining us here on Hilaal TV.
Thank you for having me.
Sithembile, as Brand South Africa, most of the work is being done in order to promote a good brand for our country. It's right here, isn't it? And us hosting the Brics Summit is testament to how us as a country can hold major events like this.
Absolutely, and I think when building a country brand, you have to be consistent. You have to always show up, and you have to have a very clear value proposition. And I think for South Africa, the journey started with the 2010. I mean, there was doubts that we'll be able to host such an event of that caliber, and we aced it. I mean, it went well. What it did at the time, though, it created awareness for the destination and our ability to excel when it comes to hosting international events. And that is why we're here today at Brics. And it's not the first time, it's the second time around. If you remember, we're in 2013,
Yes.
we also hosted Brics, the first one in Durban, and then it went to Gauteng, and now we are back again at the Sandton Convention Center.
Sithembile, South Africa, with all its beauty, there are the challenges, of course. I don't want to dwell much about that. But really, this is a country that can hold its head up high in so many ways. And this summit of the year is a clear testament to how much we as South Africans can hold our head up high and say, this is still a place where investment and positive attitudes can happen.
Absolutely. And I'm not just saying that because I'm proudly South African and I'm marketing the country brand, but it's because I have seen how we are resilient. And often we've heard that, we have a resilient economy, we are resilient as a country, but the truth of the matter, that is what has been our founding value, alongside with Ubuntu, purely because we tend to somersault and we change. I think we go through those toughest moments, but we're able to come up and bring back the good from those difficult times. We're all coming from a COVID. The growth is slow. I mean, it's a global issue. It's not peculiar to South Africa. And now suddenly, the war between Russia and Ukraine has had detrimental effects for even people that never possibly would have imagined. Inflation, the cost of living is quite high. But what it does, it requires us to have a shift in our paradigm and look for new ways of trade. And I think Brics block provides us that platform as a brand, as a country, to actually say, how can we offer our diverse economy and our strong value proposition amongst the BRIC country to facilitate the intra-trade. And it has happened, I mean, through the trade business exhibition as an example of how such a BRICS, for instance, how BRICS can have benefits that can go to or rather extend to a layman on the streets in South Africa, because then suddenly that person is provided an opportunity to showcase their talent, their craft. And I think it's one of the benefits of being a BRICS member. And I think if more of South Africa can start to even push the needle and expose the AfCFTA and the opportunities around AfCFTA, I think, the challenge and the skies is absolutely limitless here in terms of growth of the African country.
Sithe, you speak about the BRICS trade fair. I was there on Saturday. The amount of SMMEs that we have in this country, this is the perfect place for them, isn't it? Because SMMEs are one of the heartbeats of our economy. And we and South Africa and the South African economy really needs it. So how do we make sure that the SMMEs continue to be part and parcel of our country, but also expanding them and allowing that to happen, which in turn allows for more employment to be happening?
Yeah, so such forums that are big for our focus, and what we encourage as Brand South Africa is to leverage of these big events and make sure that there's a voice of a South African youth. As a country, we are a young democracy, right? And we also know that the young population as well is quite, in fact, the continent has the youngest population. So why not nurture that and ensure that you bring the best around the human capabilities so that they are able to be self-sufficient. So our ask is always to make sure that wherever you go as a country, as a delegation, bring the best crop of SMMEs so that they exposed to the world of trade, number one, and opportunities, because then they suddenly are able to communicate around the barriers that they experience. And in turn, one is able to address such barriers through these platforms. But also, the platforms are used to create demand for them. And suddenly, the market expands from just being a South African market and suddenly to get spillovers. For instance, you saw over the weekend, you got people from India, they were very interested in South African craft, vice versa. And that is what we need to do more of, I think, as a country. And I think right now, as you have heard, there's an interest to expand the Brics bloc, right? So you can only imagine the powerhouses. If that happens, we'll only wait and hear after the outcomes in terms of what will happen. But ideally, that's what you want. You want to make sure that when South Africa grows, it grows with the rest of the African continent. And South Africa, for the longest time, has been almost at the back seat in as far as driving the SMMEs. And we know that entrepreneurs can change the economy. Look at China. The entrepreneurs play a pivotal role. They contribute to the GDP. They also contribute to the taxation. There's just so much that we can replicate, but make it with a South African touch to ensure that at least we plow investment and interest around our SMMEs for us to actually turn the tables around in as far as driving growth, economic growth in South Africa.
Sita, one final question before I let you go, because I know you've got so much to do. Mr. Ibrahim Patel mentioned something interesting. We've got the raw materials in Africa. It's now time for us to take charge of those raw materials and control the narrative in terms of global economics. That was a powerful statement, wasn't it?
Very powerful. So in a nutshell, what Minister is saying, you have to own the raw materials. Also, spear champion the value chain and all the way until you have a finished product. In the past, we used to import. And I mean, we'll export a lot of the raw materials. Then we'll come back to import a finished product. That's not a sustainable recipe for future economic growth. So I echo his sentiments in that as the African continent, let's take charge. These are the raw materials. We have the power. Let's make sure that we have the bright minds that are able to negotiate when we sit around the tables in as far as ensuring that the tariffs, the blockages around investment and the policies are enabling so that we are able to attract more investors. But I really think we have changed. The tides are turning, and this is just the beginning of what's to come.
And I hope so too, Sithembile. We hope to have you at our Hilaal TV studio so we can talk more about Brand South Africa and, of course, changing the narrative of our beautiful nation.
Thank you so much. It's been great, and I'll surely come and visit.
That is Sithembile Ntombela, the Brand SA CEO. And stay tuned to Hilaal TV as we bring you more from the 15th Brics Summit here at the Sandton Convention Center.